Now, let's continue our journey in southern Sudan by following two children, Salva and Nya. Even though they live in different times, their stories are connected by the same struggles, survival, hardship, and hope. Remember, on one side, we have Naya living in southern Sudan in 2008. On the other side, we have Salva living in the same region back in 1985. Even though they live 23 years apart, both of their lives are shaped by one constant struggle, walking long distances to survive. For one of them, walking is part of a normal daily routine. For the other, the journey begins suddenly during a frightening moment that changes everything. After her long walk, Nya finally reaches the pond. It is not empty or quiet. The area is full of life, with other women and girls collecting water, birds singing nearby, and cattle gathered around the pond. Nya uses a gourd to scoop up some muddy water and takes a drink. Then she begins the hardest part of the job, filling her large container with water for the long walk back home. On the other hand, Salva's journey begins in a very frightening way. He wakes up alone in a barn and realizes that everyone else is gone. After his school was attacked, Salva had escaped with a group of strangers, but during the night they left without him. Salva slowly understands why. He is only a child and the group thought he would slow them down. In that quiet, empty barn, Salva realizes he is completely alone. So right away, both journeys become lonely struggles, but in very different ways. For Naya, the challenge is physical. She must carry heavy water and walk long distances in the hot sun every day. For Salva, the struggle is emotional and frightening. He is alone, afraid, and unsure if he will survive. Nya's journey is not just difficult because of the distance, it also takes a huge amount of strength and endurance. She balances a heavy container of water on her head as she walks home through the heat. At the same time, her foot still hurts from the thorn she stepped on earlier. Nya already knows that the walk back home will be slower, harder, and much more painful than the trip to the pond. While Nya struggles with physical pain, Salva faces a different kind of suffering, fear and uncertainty. He is completely alone in the middle of a war zone. Smoke from bombs fills the sky, and he has no idea where to go or what will happen next. Salva's fear is not just about surviving the next few hours. He is suddenly forced to worry about his entire future. In this moment, Salva feels completely lost and hopeless. Then the story begins to change. After spending time alone, both Nya and Salva finally meet other people. These moments are very important because they bring a small feeling of hope. For both children, the kindness or choices of strangers could make a huge difference in whether they survive and keep going. This is Salva's first real moment of hope. As he walks alone, he sees an old woman sitting outside a house. Nervously, he moves closer and notices the V-shaped scars on her forehead. These are Dinka tribal scars, which means she belongs to the same tribe as Salva. Right away, some of Salva's fear begins to fade. For the first time since the attack, he realizes he may not be completely surrounded by danger and enemies. To really understand why this moment matters so much, we need a little more background. At this time, there was not only a civil war happening in Sudan, there were also older conflicts between tribes like the Dinka and the Nuer. For generations, groups fought over important things like water and land. So for Salva, seeing the Dinka scars on the woman's forehead changes everything. It means she is from his own tribe. And in that moment, instead of feeling surrounded by enemies, he finally feels a small sense of safety and hope. And then the old woman does something very simple but very powerful. She sees that Salva is hungry and gives him 2 handfuls of peanuts. Salva does not eat them quickly. Instead, he slowly chews each peanut carefully to make them last as long as possible. This moment is about more than food. It is the first real kindness Salva has received since his world was torn apart by war. So when the woman asks if he is an orphan, Salva reacts very strongly inside. To him, his family is still a huge part of who he is. Even though he does not know where they are or if they are safe, he holds tightly to the belief that they are still out there somewhere. That hope keeps him going. As long as his family might still be alive, Salva refuses to give up completely. But this small moment of comfort does not last very long. Now, both journeys enter a harder stage. For Salva, it becomes a story of rejection and loneliness as he keeps getting left behind. For Nya, life continues as the same exhausting routine, repeating the long walk for water day after day. This moment is really heartbreaking for Salva. The pond near the village is drying up, so the old woman has to leave and travel somewhere else, but she cannot take Salva with her. She explains that soldiers usually ignore an old woman traveling alone, but a woman traveling with a child could attract dangerous attention. So after only a few days of safety and kindness, Salva is forced to face being alone once again. Just then, a group of Dinka travelers arrives, and Salva immediately feels hopeful again. Maybe this group will let him come with them. But their first reaction is harsh and practical. They see Salva as a child who might slow them down. They worry that he will need food but will not be strong enough to help the group survive. Every comment feels like a painful reminder that survival during war often forces people to make cold and difficult choices. And as Salva listens, he can feel his hope beginning to disappear again. But after all the arguments about why Salva should not come with them, one man says something simple but important. Salva is Dinka, just like they are. That shared identity changes everything. In that moment, the connection between people from the same tribe becomes stronger than the fear of not having enough food or supplies. Because of that bond, Salva is finally accepted into the group instead of being left behind again. At the same time that Salva's future is uncertain, Nya's life is controlled by one important number, 7. It's not lucky 7, it's more like unlucky 7. For 7 months every year, the pond near her village dries up. During those long months, Nya must spend her days walking again and again to collect water. What makes Naya's life so exhausting is that this is not a trip she makes only once. Every single day, she walks to the pond and back 2 times. Most of her day is spent walking under the hot sun, carrying heavy water. She is barely home long enough to eat before she has to leave again. Now her 5-year-old sister, Akir, is beginning to learn the same difficult journey and routine. So for this final section, let's focus on the small moments of hope in their journeys. Even during all the hardship and struggle, both Salva and Nya experience small victories and acts of kindness that help them keep going forward. As Salva continues traveling with the group, the days begin to blur together. He keeps walking forward almost automatically, exhausted and barely able to think clearly. His hunger becomes much worse than a simple empty stomach. It turns into a deep pain that seems to fill his entire body. By this point in the journey, Salva is extremely weak and close to collapsing. Then suddenly, a young man named Buxa stops walking and listens carefully to a sound in the distance. Right away, Salva becomes frightened. In his experience, strange noises often mean danger, like airplanes or bombs from the war. For a moment, Salva is sure that the fighting might be getting closer again. His fear becomes even stronger than his hunger. But Buxa is not hearing danger at all. He is hearing an opportunity. He recognizes the call of a special bird called a honey guide. People believe this bird can lead humans to honey. Salva has heard stories about this before, but he has never actually seen it happen. The bird leads them straight to a tree, giving the group hope that they may finally find food. The moment they hear the word honey, everything changes. For Salva and the group, honey is much more than just food. It feels like treasure after so many days of hunger and suffering. Finding the honey brings a rare moment of happiness and hope during their long and difficult journey. For one night at least, they will not have to go to sleep hungry. And that brings us to one of the biggest ideas in the story. Sometimes, during difficult journeys, very small things can make an enormous difference. For Salva, it might be recognizing the scars of someone from his own tribe or hearing a bird that leads to honey. Small moments like these give him hope and strength to continue. The story reminds us that during hard times, survival often depends on finding small signs of kindness, hope, or connection that help people keep moving forward instead of giving up.
If you'd like more personalized feedback, writing support, and discussion sessions, they're available with me or with our selected tutors. All the details are here.